We mentioned earlier that people do not pay attention to HIV/AIDS information campaigns. We also mentioned that it is no good to know it and not do it. The guidelines to prevent transmission are spread all over. There are interventions like the distribution of condoms. Millions of condoms are distributed, and you can get condoms basically anywhere. Yet the infections are still going up. This drives one to look for other factors that perpetuate the spread of HIV/AIDS. One must look at whether there are factors in our society that are having an impact on people's judgment or can reduce their ability to protect themselves from HIV/AIDS and or make it difficult for people to take control of their lives. Furthermore, urgent policies and interventions are needed to target HIV preventions and offer the people living with HIV/AIDS treatment, care, and support. Strategies must be formed and implemented to break free from complacencies and overcome barriers in fighting HIV/AIDS. Factors in our society that can play a role in HIV infections and the ability of people living with HIV to seek treatment, care, and support that should be investigated include poverty, physical and sexual abuse, lack of education, homelessness, stigma, addiction, violence, untreated mental health problems, lack of employment opportunities, powerlessness, lack of choice, lack of legal resident status, and lack of social support. There are also physical, social, cultural, organizational, community, political, economic, legal, and policy factors within our environments that determine the health status of individuals or populations. They also impede or facilitate HIV prevention efforts. When analyzing potential factors that play a role in HIV infection, one must be aware that thoughts, feelings, and behavior could be influenced by social characterization, stereotyping, prejudices, and discrimination. Social characterization is the process by which people are placed into groups based on characteristics like race, gender, and ethnicity. Let us look at each term. What is stereotyping? It's a shared belief about the characteristics of those who belong to a particular social or physical category. Prejudice, prejudging someone without knowing them based on characteristics that are assumed to be common to all members of the group. Discrimination, putting justice into action. Self image, how you see yourself and how you believe others see you. Self esteem, how we feel and think about ourselves. Let us look at sexual offenders. A sexual offender is a person who commits sexual crimes such as rape, looking in windows, or having sexual contact with a child or a young person. Sexual offenders may be male or female, old or young, attractive or unattractive, smooth talking or awkward, rich or poor, in real life or in virtual space. There are two categories of offenders: the coercive offenders, who use force, violence, or threats to sexually abuse. They may be a stranger or someone we know. Relational offenders, they use grooming and sexual manipulation to sexually abuse, normally known. There is a wide range of sexual offenses, including rape, sexual assault, incest, bestiality, flashing, and other crimes. This slide divides the sexual crimes into two categories: hands on crimes and hands off crimes. Your hands on crimes are sexual assault, rape, molestation, forcible sodomy, and sexual touching. Your hands off are exhibitionism, possessing illicit pornography, obscene telephone calls, voyeurism, and sexual harassment. The rate of sexual violence in South Africa is among the highest in the world. Studies reveal that sexual abuse and violence are significantly associated with the risk of HIV infection. Sexual violence is the use of force or manipulation to get someone to engage in unwanted sexual activity without their consent. Sexual violence includes, but it is not limited to, the following forms: rape and compelled rape, sexual assault, compelled assault and compelled sexual assault, forced witness of sexual body parts, child pornography, incest, bestiality, that is, sex acts with animals, or acts of necrophilia, which is the sexual attraction towards or a sexual act including corpses. This slide highlights some points on the rate of sexual violence in South Africa. The rate of sexual violence in South Africa is among the highest in the world. Sexual violence is the use of force or manipulation to get someone to engage in unwanted sexual activity without their consent. During 2015 and 16, there were 51,895 crimes of a sexual nature reported to the South African Police Service. 1 in every 3 South African children are sexually abused before the age of 16, and the rate of sexual abuse of boys exceeds that of girls. In some regions, women who have experienced physical or sexual intimate partner violence are 1.5 times more likely to acquire HIV than women who have not experienced such violence. Females aged just between 16 and 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. Let us look at some violence against women and children and infants. South Africa has some of the highest incidences of child and infant rape in the world. The Tears Foundation and the MRC stated 50% of South Africa's children will be abused before the age of 18. The MRC study stated that in 2009, 15% were under 12 years old. In 2017, the police reported that 9% of reported rape are those of 9-year-old or younger, with agencies reporting an increase throughout the country. Child abuse. A significant contributing factor for the escalation in child abuse is the widespread myth in HIV-ravaged South Africa that having sex with a virgin will cure a man of AIDS. This virgin cleansing myth also exists in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria. The child abusers are often relatives to their victims and are at times their fathers or providers. Effects of child sex abuse. The effects of child sexual abuse can be long-lasting and affect the victim's mental health. Victims are more likely than non-victims to experience the following mental health challenges: about 4 times more likely to develop symptoms of drug abuse, about 4 times more likely to experience PTSD as adults, which stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, about 3 times more likely to experience a major depressive episode as adults. Violence against women. A woman being raped over the age of 25 has a 1 in 4 chances that her attacker is HIV positive, and more women than men are affected by HIV/AIDS. The perpetrators of rape in South Africa tend to be men known to the victim. It is reported that a husband or boyfriend kills a woman every 6 hours in South Africa. Many men and women say that rape cannot occur in relationships. However, 1 in 4 women report having been abused by an intimate partner. Violence against men. About 3.5% of men have been forced to have sex with other men, and this was found in a Mental Research Council survey done in 2009. About 19.4% of all adult victims of sexual assault in South Africa in 2012 were male. Another group survey estimated that 1 in 5 adult males become victims of sexual offenses, and this figure could be much higher as a male is 10 times less likely to report a sexual violation than a woman. Corrective rape. Lesbians in certain parts of South Africa also face a dangerous environment. Raping lesbians, a practice referred to as corrective rape, is believed to convert them to heterosexuality. Corrective rape is also perpetrated against gay men. We mentioned earlier that there is an association between sexual abuse and violence with the risk of HIV infection. In other words, the victim could contract HIV should the perpetrator be HIV positive. You would agree that the slides that we showed do not paint a nice picture and that action is urgently needed to prevent sexual abuse and violence. This slide lists all the stakeholders and contributing factors to the problem, as well as the situation to this unacceptable situation of sexual abuse and violence. The HIV/AIDS pandemic, the Bill of Rights, the fears of influence, and some of the role players from society influences the formation of the people's values and beliefs. There are different types of people, rich, poor, male, female, etc. However, each one is unique. HIV positive or negative, need for food, shelter, sleep, clothing, hygiene, and healthcare, sex, friendship, intimacy, sense of connection. You are the captain of your own ship, conform or non-conform, and you have a sexual orientation and a drive. The values and beliefs impact the decisions that you make and how you behave with regard to sex in this case. Some people choose to abstain, while others have normal, healthy, beautiful sexual relationships with their partners. However, some walk the way of sexual abuse and violence. Reference is made here to consent. Consent is an agreement between participants to engage in sexual activity. Consent doesn't have to be verbal, but verbally agreeing to different sexual activities can help both you and your partner respect each other's boundaries. Remember, if consent is not given by everyone involved, it is sexual violence. Here are several types of sexual assaults listed. Everybody has got a role to play to stop sexual violence. Victims must be encouraged to report violations and referred to support bodies. Let us reflect. Can you name various types of sexual assault? Who all should get involved with the drive to stop sexual assault in your community? What support could you render to assist someone who's being sexually assaulted? Consent is an agreement between parties to engage in sexual activity. Do you agree that sexual activity without consent is considered sexual assault?